welcome back to another Outdoor Philosophy. And as I said last week, we're doing a little break this week from dumbing down our kids because something actually hit the news that is very related to dumbing down our kids. And so we're going to talk about this. So this is an article from The Conversation by, which is called Gates Launches Lobbying Arm, Higher Education on Agenda. Now, what I didn't recognize, mostly because I didn't dig into what formulated all the laws around Common Core, is that how much Bill Gates lobbied for that bill. And the reason he did, of course, is a very large component of Common Core is computerized testing. Sounds like our technocrats are having ulterior motives. And by the way, if you did not know, those Silicon Valley guys will not let their kids near technology. The very technology that they're making and not only forcing on us as people, but also forcing on our children through government instituted programming, they are keeping as far away from their own children as they possibly can. That's a huge red flag. Now, of course, the Common Core is the thing that costs billions of dollars to the American taxpayers and basically makes very dumb kids. That's kind of the thesis of what we're learning in dumbing down our kids, which of course was written before the bill was finally passed. But the thing is that we see with that is how much it hurts our education because it doesn't focus on teaching us how to learn. It doesn't focus on allowing us to make connections. It teaches us nothing more than to cram the facts into our head enough to pass our exams, which are tested by computers. So Bill Gates is now creating a new lobbying firm, and I would just be in favor of banning all lobbying altogether. But he's launching a new lobbying group specifically now to target on higher ed. And this is an interesting one, and some of this I agree with and some of this I don't agree with. So let me know what you guys think about all this. So the idea here is that Bill Gates wants to basically change how college educations work in the higher eds. And they want to give each education, like each major, some type of score to indicate how good or how bad of a major it is, and if it's a bad major, wants to decrease the availability of federal aid. In other words, if you want to go and get a degree in the arts or a degree in language, you may not be able to get the student loan, but if you want to go get your degree in the STEM sciences, hey, the money's always going to be available for you. Now, part of this is good because a lot of people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on completely useless degrees. I do not want to minimize that as a thing. But that being said, not everybody's cut out for STEM. Not everybody wants to be a doctor or a lawyer or a mathematician. And so what ends up happening is our students are now being forced into college. Not necessarily with a gun to their head, but it's constantly indoctrinated into them. You will go to college, you will go to college, you will go to college. You know, I like Dave Ramsey, but he gets on the same thing. I will train my children that they will be going to college. Why? Not everybody should go to college. As a former college professor, not everybody needs to go to college. There's nothing wrong with trade schools. There's nothing wrong with not going to school at all and learning about life on your own, figuring it out. And frankly, there's a lot of things we can talk about back and forth. Is that going to hurt your future? Not as much as they want you to think. But now they've forced everyone to go into school. So now we're going to get everybody into school. But if you don't do the thing we tell you to do, you will not have the funding and be able to go. And since school costs so much, if you're going to have to go to school because you have to anyway, now you have to do this, and we will end up with a ton of people who are in degrees they don't want to be. They are miserable. They did it just because that's where the money was available. And guys, I don't want to go to a doctor like that. I don't want to go to a doctor was forced to become a doctor because it was the only way he paid back his bills. I want to go to a doctor who longed to be a doctor. I want a teacher who opted to be a teacher because they really wanted to be a teacher, not somebody who opted to be a teacher because there was no money for the degree she wanted, you know. And so this is a problematic thing. Now, there is a potential upside to this, and the big upside I see is that college education has gotten so ludicrously out of control. In fact, I've talked about this before. My whole 4 years of college cost me $35,000 at the time when my Joe job right out of high school that I was working on the way through college was paying me $8 an hour. Well, now students are only making maybe $9 an hour, which is only $1 an hour more, but the same education is going to cost over $100,000. I think the number is like closer to $200,000 or something for the same type of thing. And because we're not just talking the going and looking at the tuition things. My $35,000 was tuition, it was books, it was meal plans, it was everything, because I got that number adding up everything ex post facto. All right, and so nowadays the education costs so much more and the income hasn't gone up. And some of this is because they're doing it because the money is always going to be available. Some of it's because, they can for whatever other reasons. And if this plan goes through from Gates, what it might do is it might cause enough people to go, I'm not going to go to college. I can't take my major. So either the school's going to have to drop the price for education, or at least for some degrees drop the price for education, or eliminate programs altogether, which means there's less competition, and that means that prices are going to have to go down anyway. Now, I said less competition. What I mean is if I want to go and get a degree in language arts and you don't offer it, now I can only go to some other school to do that. That means that the school might be willing to keep the program, lower the cost to keep the students in, but we don't know. So there's a lot of unknowns that this thing could do. I just thought it was an interesting thing. And so the article from The Conversation here, they talk about, they started a commission to determine the value of a college degree. So Bill Gates, who lobbied for Common Core but will keep his children as far away from the computers required for Common Core possible, is now determine the value of your college degree or certificate. And then they're going to use this information to lobby legislators to embrace an agenda for their commission. So basically they're going to say that if you want to take certain types of classes, you may not be able to get the money or the funding to do that. Which again is a positive in that our student loan crisis, the students they know they're going to get money no matter what. And so let's just, take whatever they want. And then we have with people who can't get jobs, their degrees are fairly worthless. They really haven't learned a lot. And all they have now is they have the same job at, Starbucks or something, only now they're dragging around $100,000 or more in student loan debt. And that's a crisis. Rather than dealing with this situation, we need to better tell these publicly funded universities, hey, it is going to be affordable on average wage or you're not getting any more of our federal money. There you go. That would change it in a heartbeat. If we said, I'm sorry, this is the average income. If the student cannot go to college on this income, you're not getting money. You got to figure it out. We would actually start to see some real change when it hurts the wallets of these endowment funds. And so the author of this article, who's the author of this article? Nicholas Tampio is the article author. So he wrote a book about the Common Core, described how Bill and Melinda Gates funded and coordinated the Common Core State Standards Initiative. They help build an educational system that emphasizes a narrow set of reading, writing, and math skills that can be tested all on computers. That's exciting. Stated purpose of the Gates' new lobbying effort is to focus on, among other things, educational outcomes for Black, Latino, rural students. Sorry, us white males, we're still evil. We're still getting left out of the equation. And move people from poverty to employment. Throwing money at the problem, by the way, doesn't solve it. The Gates Foundation Post-Secondary Value Commission gives some insight into what the Gates means by educational outcomes. The commission aims to create a way to measure the value of certain degrees or certificates. If legislators adopt this measurement tool, then they might only fund things that lead to an immediate economic payoff. So sorry, you can't go to school because your degree is worthless. Elite institutions of higher education will likely still provide liberal arts education. Regional state schools could be under increasing pressure to cut majors such as history, French, geography, philosophy, and political science. Oh, good. Get rid of all of the things that actually teach us the foundation for democracy. That's exciting. They talk about why they're going to do it now. They've been indirectly shaping K through 12 education public policy for years. The group has given millions of dollars to grants and education groups, think tanks, parent-teacher organizations, teachers' unions, state groups of education, and a governor's association to write, advocate for, and implement the Common Core. Despite a revision and rebranding effort in many states, the standards still shape how most students in America learn reading and math. So they pivoted to lobbying. It signals to me that they want to play a more aggressive role in writing legislation. So down here near the bottom, they talk about they're throwing a 1-2 punch with a launching of Post-Secondary Value Commission and the Gates Policy Initiative. Two separate things working together. The former seeks to identify whether certain majors are worth federal financial aid. The latter may turn this framework into a law. So, quote, if we can provide a clear definition of college value, and we definitely are hoping that will affect Higher Ed Reauthorization Act, says the president of the American Association of State College and University and co-chair of the Gates Commission, stated recently. Oh, so we have that revolving door back here. President of an association for colleges, universities, and a co-chair of Gates' new commission. That's exciting. That just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Through Higher Education Act, the federal government distributed approximately $29 billion in Pell Grants for actually 7.2 million undergraduates in 2017. $29 billion, guys. There's where our taxpayer dollars went. If they adopt this tool to measure the value of college certificate, then Congress could decide that low earnings or low loan repayment rates disqualify students in certain programs from receiving federal financial aid. Oh, boy. So that's definitely an interesting perspective. What do you guys think about all of this? Of course, this is just, Gates got him on the one end. Now let's go ahead and get him on the other end. And now technocrat billionaires are formulating the lobby things to force us to do things they're unwilling to allow their children to do. Let me know what you guys think about all that in the comments down below.